So based on this, here's what it found. Is my screen still up? Yeah, it looks like it is. Okay. This is the info that's sent. Only sends the recipe ID, but not the actual recipe content. Needs to be fetched from storage. Okay. Here we go. Make this change additively. Do not change anything else. The webhook is currently working, and we only want to add the recipe, not change the webhook. Okay, we'll see what it changes here. And while we are doing that, let's save this trigger and take a look at what we can do with it. So the first thing you would do in this particular application, this is high level. It's slightly different whether you use Make or Zapier or something like that. But in high level, once you send a webhook, you have to run the create contact function so that it can find and update the contact in the system. So we would add a field and map that. We would take this full name and we're going to grab the webhook details and put in the customer name, right? So we called that customer name into here. And then we need an ID field, which in this case would be our email. This is a non-duplicate field. So we're going to grab that customer email. And then I don't know if I have custom fields in here for time. Doesn't look like I have time set up. So we'll just leave that. Right now, we'll create the name and email. And we will save that here. And now for automation, I could say, send email like this. And I could say it's from me. Put that down here, lazy style. Here is your recipe. And we would go down here and say, hey, let's put in their first name. Now, what's neat about this particular tool, this is high level. When I send a full name and I post it in, it automatically parses it into first and last name for us. So it splits it on the break. So I put in the full name, but now it knows that there's Courtney and there's Ham because that's the data we sent in. Here is your recipe. And then we don't have the recipe field yet. Here is your receipt. And we will say cost is, we'll grab this field right from the webhook, which was the amount, but I saw that it had just a 2. So we will put $, we'll put 2 zeros after it so it looks nice. And we will say payment ID. And it came with a payment ID here, right there. We'll include that. And we'll put in the timestamp. We're basically creating our record here of what the client did, and IP address. We're going to grab that here like that. And we'll do a little enjoy and we'll save that. Let's go back over here and take a look at our. So we'll see what we added, retrieve the full details. And it put in a little log here to say that if it couldn't retrieve the recipe, make a little note and then continue on. So don't fail the purchase process if the recipe can't be retrieved for some reason, which is fine with me. And let's go ahead and restart. So Control C, npm run dev. Go back over here and take a look and see where we are. We haven't done a porter. Sarah, did that kind of put some ideas out there for how the automation and workflows could work after the webhook stuff? It's pretty neat. And you can do a ton of stuff.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to use it today, later.
Definitely. It's super powerful. When anybody who uses the PRD tool, that's what happens. It triggers a webhook, sends it over to high level, and that's where I package up the content to send to you an email so you get your PRD. So the PRD tool doesn't actually have any of that intelligence built into the backend. It just calls a webhook and lets high level do the rest.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And that tool is your tool that you created, right?
High level is not my tool.
Oh,
It is an amazing tool that is potentially over-engineered, but has a ton of features for customer management, automation, landing pages. It's a full marketing stack, but it basically has like a flat rate Zapier built in. And that's what we were dealing with was the workflow tool.
But the PRD tool, that tool
The
is
PRD tool is mine.
that is
Yes.
yours. That's what.
Yes.
And it's available on your Patreon?
It's free. prd.opeachy.ai. You can just go grab it anytime you want.
Right.
Bookmark it. Use it as many times as you want. It doesn't have any limits on it. You have an app idea, you just drop it in and it writes the document to make the app. All right, let's test this. Running that test, it unlocked the recipe here. We're going to see if we got an alert about, so right, it was potentially going to log an error here. So we're going to see if it logged an error about getting the recipe. I don't see that error showing up. So we're going to go back over here to our webhook and we're going to look, there's our next request right there. Let's see what came through. There is our whole recipe right there. Pretty cool, right? So if we save that as our new mapping, we could then go down here and just put in those custom fields. So we go to our webhook trigger and we could say, here's our recipe name. And here is our description. And we're just putting in these fields one at a time. Here's the recipe overview. And here are the ingredients. And here are the brewing steps. And here are the details about ABV and IBU if you make the recipe as written. And now we have the ability to publish that. And whenever somebody orders a recipe, it sends them an email with all the recipe details. Easy as that. So that is how you use webhooks. That's how you add a webhook. There's a lot more you can do with them. Some of the things I like to do is create an admin backend for webhooks so that when you log into your application as an admin, you have a place to put in webhooks and maybe select which action those webhooks are for. For example, maybe you have a webhook for signups, but then you also have a webhook for status. A lot of people are building learning applications. So a person goes through a process and you want to maybe know when they reach a certain milestone or goal. So you'd set up a separate webhook for that. And if you create an admin panel in the back end to manage your webhooks, it can clean it up a little bit, make it easier to manage, or you can just do them like we did in the code here. There, if you want to use high level, you're welcome to use the link there. That helps support these free calls, but you are not required to use our link. You can go get it yourself if you want, but it's a really cool tool to do that sort of stuff and a bunch more things. So you're welcome to use that. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give me a like and subscribe so you can see more just like it.